Good morning, everyone. This is Mohammad AlBlooshi. I had Fintech and innovation for the DIFC. I wanted to do this talk live as I feel much more excited and a part of the conversation when I do things live. So I wanted to start by probably spending a few minutes telling all of you what the DIFC is and what the DIFC has done over the past 15 years and how it has positioned itself in becoming the region's leading fintech hub and of course, in driving the future of finance. So if you allow me to start with the DIFC, of course, stands for the Dubai International Financial Center, which is a well-established financial center for the Middle East and North African markets, established back in 2004. And today, I feel very proud to say that we compete with the likes of London, New York, Singapore. And I think having a financial center in the region like the DIFC is something that the whole region can be proud of. Now, we're a bit unique in terms of how we're set up now. And the reason I say that is if we look at the DIFC is a physical and legal carve out from the UAE mainland rules and regulations, which makes it very unique and of course attractive for financial services sector in particular. What I mean by being a physical and legal carve out, so we are based within the city of Dubai, right next to the Burj Khalifa, but we are exempt when it comes to our legal framework and the regulatory framework. So we are based on English common law that makes us an international and independent jurisdiction, and we have our own regulatory body known as the Dubai Financial Services Authority, which regulates all the financial institutions. Now, this has a little bit of a history to it. And of course, the establishment of the DIFC was done on the basis that we wanted to make sure that Dubai's economy is diverse and contributes more to Dubai's GDP. Back in 2004, the financial sector used to contribute 6% to Dubai's GDP. And that's where it was realized that the financial sector can do a lot more. And we had to, of course, create a unique infrastructure that attracts that GDP contribution and economic growth. And if we look at the number or the financial sector contribution today, the number is at about 12-13%. So we can see the importance of the financial sector to Dubai's GDP growth. Of course, the DIFC has played a significant role since its establishment, and the way we're set up is quite unique. Now, having said that, so the DIFC's concept is more like a city within a city. It's run by three bodies, which are the DIFC Authority, where I come from. We are responsible for the center's strategic development, business development, the master plan of the center. We look at the legal framework, the commercial licensing, and of course, we manage the relationships as well with the whole center. Now, then again, for the financial center to be unique, as mentioned, we had to have an independent financial regulator, which is based on international standards. We have the DFSA, which is very much similar to the regulators based out in Europe, like the FCA in the UK and MAS in Singapore. So that's another independent body which regulates all the financial institutions that are based out of the DIFC. And third, we have our own courts and arbitration center within the region. Of course, the first time you have courts and arbitration centers that are based on English language and of course, practice English common law. Now, as of today, of course, we have seen significant success. Today, we set up at more than 2,500 entities that operate out of the DIFC, out of which 500 plus are financial institutions. Now, as a financial center, we have all the top financial institutions from across the world, be it from US, the Goldmans, the JPs, all the way to Europe, to the top European banks, to the top Chinese banks, to the top Indian banks. They all have their regional headquarters at the DIFC. Same goes for insurance, reinsurance companies, and service providers as well. Now, 15 years into the journey as a financial center, we were ranked number 8 by the Financial Times globally, and generally, whenever anyone looks at the DIFC, they look at the DIFC in comparison with Canary Wharf in London and the Singapore Financial Center and Wall Street, of course, in New York. So these are the bodies, and these are some of course stats. We have got 17 out of top 20 top banks, I think, which is quite significant to have. We are by far the big, in terms of clientele and ecosystem, we're by far the deepest and the biggest in the region. But I think if we, and of course, I'll probably step back a little bit. But if we look at this, the center was specifically designed for a certain clientele. So we were initially designed to focus on a few segments, which are the banks and capital markets segment, wealth and insurance, wealth and asset management and insurance. And now there is this huge focus on fintech and innovation. We are also a very well-known jurisdiction for professional services. So all the top consulting firms, the top law firms, they are based at the DIFC. Having said that, we are by nature a free zone, which allows 100% foreign ownership. There's no restriction on capital repatriation, no restriction on talent, and of course, we have an international regulatory environment. I want to come quickly to this slide, given that we're a bit tight on timeline, and I have a lot to say when it comes to fintech and future of finance. So as we see, of course, this evolution within the financial services sector, and as, of course, Dubai has humongous plans when it comes to digitization and innovation, I wanted to, of course, we as the Dubai International Financial Center want to make sure that we drive the fourth industrial revolution when it comes to fintech and future of finance. And as we see new us to make sure that we help the new entrants in the market, and of course, the ones that are well established in the center to take them to the next level, be it technology firms that provide tech as a service. Now, our journey started back in 2017 when we launched an accelerator program by the name DIFC Fintech Hive. I'm sure some of you might have heard of that. So we started by launching an accelerator program. It was very important for us to position ourselves as a startup-friendly jurisdiction, which historically has been known for the big financial institutions and big service providers. So we started by launching an accelerator program just to create that buzz and that environment within the financial center, which has done amazing in the past 4 years. It has grown 4 times in size. Some of the stats are on the screen. We, as of today, have accelerated about 85 startups, and the companies that have graduated from the DIFC Fintech Hive have raised more than $120 million in funding, which for the region is quite significant. Now, of course, that is just one element. That was our starting point. And then we realized that startups need access to market. I mean, there's few elements that a fintech ecosystem requires, and we want to make sure we give that. The first part of it is giving access to market, giving startups access to market. So we launched one accelerator with Accenture, which is the Fintech Hive. Then we also announced a partnership with Startup Bootcamp, which is, again, a global name based out of the Valley, to accelerate or incubate 40 startups for us over the next 4 years. And we partnered with Mashreq Visa and HSBC to run this program out of the DIFC. As of today, we've accelerated 20 startups, and we plan to accelerate 20 more. There's more accelerator programs that we plan to launch, because we believe, I mean, giving startups access to market is one of the key aspects or key requirements. Then we, of course, when we look at future of finance or the fintech ecosystem, we believe there are 3 components that are very important. One is, of course, access to market, access to The second is access to capital, and then regulation and license, regulatory requirements. So looking at the second aspect, it is basically giving startups access to funding. So the DIFC, even though in our nature we're more of a, let's say, government body or regulatory body, we kind of looked at how we can help our startups. So we decided to set up a fintech fund under which we actually invest into our startups to help them grow and, of course, get to the next level. So these are the partners that we signed up with, are MEVP and WAMDA, and these are some of the startups that we have invested in. The fund is open for any startup from the region who's looking for access to capital. Now, of course, I think fintech wouldn't, I would be correct to say fintech wouldn't prevail if we don't basically look at innovation or do our own regulation. And that's why it's very important that our regulator, the DFSA, is on board with our strategy. The DFSA has announced a few years back the DIFC Innovation License, which is our regulatory sandbox, which basically gives you a testing license for a period of 6 months to 1 year, where you can test your products. You can do live transactions with close monitoring from the regulator, and of course, after a year, you get graduated and you operate without any restrictions. Now, one of the things I think it was very important for us to become this fintech hub was to allow subsidized licensing. Because again, if we look at the fintech market, there's a lot of new entrants coming with new ideas and new ways of operating. So we had to subsidize rates for startups to make it easy for them to do business. So we reduced our costs and we created co-working spaces where the idea was to, of course, create that cluster and also to bring the like-minded together under one roof so they can co-create and develop innovative products. So with that being done, today we stand at more than 250 fintech firms, and that by far is the biggest cluster of fintech companies in the region. And the growth that we've seen is exponential. Year-on-year growth. Even during the pandemic, we see growth in the tech sector in particular, and we expect this to continue over the years to come. Now, some of the portfolio companies that we have are as follows. Now, we don't only just, let's say, attract early stage startups. We are also becoming a jurisdiction of preference when it comes to global fintech firms. Some of them are mentioned, and we are in discussions with several other global firms as well. So we believe we can do the same, which we did for the financial services sector, where today we have all the big financial services firms at the DIFC. The same can be replicated for the fintech firms and, of course, early stage startups. Now, again, as the fintech world is being, as the financial world is being disrupted, I usually say that no one knows what is the future of finance. And every now and then, a new entrant comes into the financial services world. And the fact that today we have TikTok and Grab applying for digital banking licenses, it becomes very unclear that who else would be providing financial services. So that's where we have to do a lot of work in terms of educating people, of course, in terms of talking to the big tech firms who are selling into financial services firms, into financial services, and we want to be able to make sure that we come up with the right regulatory frameworks to enable them to operate out of the DIFC. These are some of the areas that we focus on. I think I'm a bit short on time, so I'll skim through the rest. Then one of the major things that we're working on, we believe clustering effect is very important. That's why now the DIFC is planning to create the DIFC Innovation Hub, which will be within the center a space of about 80,000 square feet to cluster early stage startups, growth stage local and regional firms, unicorns, and big tech firms all together, financial institutions, creating innovation labs, bringing everyone together to co-create and develop the ecosystem. It should be situated in the DIFC, in the Gate Avenue, and I think I'm slightly above my time. That's it. That's Mohammad AlBlooshi and a quick overview on the DIFC ecosystem. I'm happy to take any questions.